This is the Louie T Network.
Man, I love some football. Man, I love some football. My favorite week is week 1, cause I'm watching football. First comes the preseason, and I don't take a day off. And then it gets even better when your team makes the playoffs. 32 teams go hard for one thing. They work for one thing. That Super Bowl ring. 32 teams go hard for one thing. They work for one thing. That Super Bowl ring. We in the lab room.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome, you are in the lab room. I, of course, am your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me. Week number 5 in the National Football League, Thursday edition of In the Lab Room, which means we've got a Thursday night showcase to preview. And before we get to that, I want to remind you, down the pipeline, we've got supply and demand coming up later on the program, so stay tuned for that. But let's get to this Thursday night showcase. And really, to me, this isn't a lot to talk about. There isn't a lot here to chew on because of the injury to Teddy Bridgewater. It sours and takes the shine and luster off of this game. I was excited about this game last week. When I found out that Teddy was coming in and he was going to get the start, and seeing what he did against the Atlanta Falcons, man, I said, oh, this is going to be fun, man, in Green Bay. Everybody's going to get to see this young fella on display. The Vikings let the secret weapon out of the bag. I mean, all of the parts were starting to come together. And then Teddy gets injured. And oh my goodness, now the Vikings have to ponder Christian. And once you bring him into the equation, everything else goes downhill from there. So, look, I don't really feel like Teddy is going to play. I said this yesterday on the program that I didn't think he should play. This is the problem you have with Thursday Night Football. And I love Thursday Night Football, don't get me wrong. But you don't get a lot of time to heal. If you injure yourself on Sunday and it's a mild injury, it's something that you could play with the next Sunday. But it's Thursday, so you don't have those extra 3 days of rest. So that's the problem you run into with Thursday Night Football games, is that it cuts that healing time in half. You know, everything is expedited during that week. Practice is expedited, so you don't get to practice. Because Teddy Bridgewater has a Thursday night game this week, there was practice on Monday and Tuesday instead of Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. And so, because of that, he didn't practice this week. There's no way he should be able to play if he doesn't practice Monday and Tuesday. It's not like this guy's a 6-year vet. I mean, he's a rookie. He needs practice. He needs to be in there getting the game plan. Not mental reps. I'm actually talking about physical reps. Going through the motions, hitting guys in stride. Not mental reps. Not, okay, yeah, I'm seeing these guys running the plays. No, he needs to be out there. And so, look, I know Mike Zimmer wants him to play in this game. I don't think you can afford to risk, and this is an ankle injury, a high ankle sprain. Anybody that tells you you can't make an ankle injury worse is a liar. So I'm here to tell you there's no reason to risk Teddy over a Thursday night game that would have been tough for you to win anyway had he been 100% healthy. And if he plays in this game, what is he going to be? 50, 60, 70% max? There's no reason to put him in harm's way. I say you sit him down and you let everybody ponder Christian and just take this L, take it on the chin, which is what's going to happen if Christian has to play, and just move on from there and just see if you can get these guys when they come to Minnesota. I think that's the best way to approach this game. So this game has lost its luster for me. If Christian Ponder has to start, and I think that's what they should do now. Look, it's still a game time decision. Tedo still could show up and lace them up and get out there. I don't think that's the right thing to do, however, but you never know, man. These guys, some of them heal faster than others. We'll see. But fact of the matter is, the offense for the Packers, they've gotten their act together. And I was a little worried. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to admit this. I was worried. After that Detroit game, Aaron told me to relax. He said, hey, man, 5 letters. R-E-L-A-X. Relax. Fine. That's cool. The offense, you can tell me to relax about the offense. I'm more concerned about this defense, however. These guys were gashed against the Bears. They've been gashed all season long. I don't know if they're going to come around or not. But we will see. This is if you get Christian Ponder, you better dominate. I don't care what you have to do, but if it's Christian Ponder in this game, I need total domination. If it's Teddy B, then maybe you could struggle a little bit. Maybe you might struggle. But if it's Christian Ponder, I want to see total, absolute domination in this game. And I believe that's who's going to play. I think this is Christian Ponder's final start as a Minnesota Viking. If you're a Vikings fan, you're hoping this is his final start because there's nothing good that comes of Christian Ponder starting under center for you as a Minnesota Vikings fan. So I think he's going to start the game, and because of that, this game will not be close. Give me the Green Bay Packers in a landslide, 35-13, taking care of some family business. I expect it to be a little close in the first half. Packers run away with this thing in the second half. I think that the passing game of the Packers has gotten on track. I'd love to see them get Eddie Lacy some touches and see him kind of get off the schneid a bit. He's struggled early on in this season, and I would love to see him get off in this game. But look, I know the Packers passing game is going to have opportunities to make some things happen because Christian Ponder is going to turn the football over. He's going to turn it over at least twice. You know, knowing Christian, he might even throw in a complimentary fumble for you. You never know, but he's definitely going to throw at least 1 pick. I can guarantee you that. I don't know if he'll throw 2 or 3, but he's going to give you at least 1 pick. Might even throw in a complimentary fumble or 2. So this is the thing. If you're the Packers, offensively, you need to take care of business. You need to come out and set the tone in this game, score points, and if you make the Vikings have to play catch-up, then you got them right where you want them. If you allow the Vikings to hang around this game and you're not scoring points, and it looks anything like it looked against Detroit, and this is a close game and it's low scoring, that's right in the Vikings' wheelhouse. If you take care of business, if you score points, you put up touchdowns like you did against Chicago last week, the Vikings don't stand a chance in this game with Christian Ponder at quarterback. End of discussion. If Tedo is starting in this game and he's able to be half of what he was against Atlanta, then you're going to have a challenge on your hands. I don't want him to play in this game because I don't think he can be healthy after only 3 days of rest. I don't think you can function on a high ankle sprain with 3 days of rest. I just don't see it happening. I don't care how many cortisone shots you get. I don't care how much stem treatment you get. I don't care how much your ankle has been put into the cold tub and then stimulated with hot. You know, it doesn't matter. All the treatment you want to give it, it's not going to be ready with 3 days of rest. So I don't see Tedo being a huge factor if he plays. Vikings are going down, and Christian Ponder should be the quarterback, taking them down in this game. Give me the Packers 35-13 Thursday Night Football. So, quick break. We'll be right back. We'll jump into supply and demand and move on from there. Welcome back. Supply and demand segment here in the lab room, Thursday edition. Thank you for joining me once again. And not a lot of questions. You know, it's so typical of you guys to do this, okay? I scold you one week for not giving me any material, so then the next week you flood my inbox with all kinds of questions. I mean, you ran the entire gamut. I even got college football questions that week, okay? And then I don't have a Thursday program last week, as last week was just helter-skelter for me. So no supply and demand, and I get nothing from you this week. Typical of you guys. Now I'm going to lambast you again for doing it, and if you watch, then you're going to want to give me questions. Shame on you. Shameful again. But I do have a few questions that I'm going to answer here on the program. First up, Atson16, more affectionately known on this program as just Atson. My man Atson, huge Miami Dolphins fan, asks the following. Do you think the benching of E.J. Manuel was justified, or was it too soon to pull the plug on the developing quarterback? I think that last portion of the question is essentially the answer to this. It is definitely too early to pull the plug on a developing quarterback. And I've already talked about this ad nauseum Tuesday on the program. I might have even touched on this I touched on it Wednesday, excuse me. I might have even touched on it on Tuesday as well about how I felt about the benching of E.J. Manuel. If you haven't seen either one of those episodes, then I'll reiterate it again. I don't think it's the right thing to do. And I know why it's being done. You know, Doug Marrone fears for his job. And he feels like, and look, I'm not going to disagree with the fact that E.J. Manuel has not played well enough to, this Bills team has played well enough defensively and on special teams to be 3-1 right now. The only team that they legitimately should have lost to was San Diego. San Diego Chargers are a better football team than the Buffalo Bills. But the Houston Texans game was there for the taking. And E.J. Manuel didn't play well in that game. He didn't play well against San Diego. So you could argue that, yes, E.J. Manuel is somewhat hindering the progress of this Bills team. But again, that's what happens with young quarterbacks. They have to go through growing pains sometimes. And you have to be able to have the patience. I told Doug Marrone when he made this selection 2 years ago that this kid was married. You two are married now. You can't go back on this. You guys tied the knot. This is till firing does you part. Okay? Separation only comes when one of you is no longer a member of this organization. And now Marrone wants to go back and say, I made a mistake. It's too late. It's too late. You are married to E.J. Manuel, so you take the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, if you had another guy on this roster that was young, that you felt like, hey, man, this kid could be the future of this team if given the opportunity, or even a middle-of-the-road backup that hasn't been in this league that long, like a Billy Ho, who maybe if given a chance, he might be able to create a spark and give us something. But you're talking about Kyle Orton. We know who Kyle Orton is as a quarterback. Kyle Orton isn't going to take you anywhere that you haven't already been. Kyle Orton isn't going to win you 11 games. He's an average quarterback. That's why he's been a career backup. He's been given opportunities to start. He is what he is. So, to bench E.J. Manuel in favor of Kyle Orton, I think is a big mistake. And again, E.J. Manuel hasn't even played a full season of football yet. Remember, in his rookie campaign, he was injured. He missed about 3 or 4 games. So he's still gaining experience. Yes, he's inconsistent. I never liked E.J. Manuel as a starting quarterback, but I still don't think as a first-round pick you can bench a guy this early in his career. It's not like E.J. Manuel is going out and throwing 3 and 4 interceptions in a game every week. Okay, we've seen much worse from some of these quarterbacks around the league, and they're still in there getting opportunities. You just got to let this kid grow and mature and get through these growing pains. And pulling him out and sitting him down isn't the way to do that. So yes, I think it's way too early. I think it's a premature move by a guy that's desperate in Doug Marrone to save his job. And I don't think it's going to ultimately save his job, and it's going to damage EJ Manuel's psyche in the process. I just don't like anything, any component of this situation. To me, it all stinks. So you move on to the next question. Smoker71311, and absolutely love this guy. And it's just smoke. It's just smoke, man. It's just smoke. And my man Smoke asked the following. He had a two-part question for me. Who will be the MVP? And if the Redskins change their name, what should it be? Now, the first part of this question, and he even said it in his comment, I know it's early. He preferenced it with this. I know it's early, but who would you be willing to say the MVP would be this season? And for me, I've said it already before. I don't remember if it was Wednesday or Tuesday that I said this, but it's Phillip Rivers. I mean, for me, and again, it's early. You know, I don't like to make predictions about what's going to happen, you know, 2.5 months down the road. I mean, hard to really say what's going to happen. I mean, this has been a wacky season as it is already, but at the quarter mark of the season, Phillip Rivers has been lights out, man. And if you wanted me to give you a co-MVP, somebody else that could sneak up and steal it from, it'd be Aaron Rodgers. I think those two right now have been lights out. And it'd be interesting to see what Aaron does on Thursday Night Football tonight against the Minnesota Vikings. But he's already at 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. The thing that both of these quarterbacks have done is they've taken care of the football. High completion percentage. You know, they don't make a lot of mistakes. And I love that quality in a quarterback. The ability to get the football in the hands of playmakers. That's where the high completion percentage comes into play. And the inability to turn it over. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They're fundamentally sound with the football. And that's what both of these quarterbacks bring to the table. And it doesn't hurt when your team is 3-1 and playing like one of the best teams in the league, like the San Diego Chargers are, and they're led by Phillip Rivers. And I think the Green Bay Packers are going to get on track. That was a huge win in Chicago last week. They got the Vikings this week, and I think if Teddy Bridgewater doesn't play, and I don't expect him to, I expect them to pile on this Vikings team and him to pad his stats again in this game. So we'll see. But to me, right now, Phillip Rivers, to me, is the leading candidate for MVP. But again, it's so early in the season. You don't know what's going to happen. But if I had to pick one now, I put my money on number 17 in Phillip Rivers. So, and the second part of this question, if the Redskins change their name, what would it be? I've answered this before. You know, I answered it. Matter of fact, it was last year, November, and when I answered this, I did a Redskins video talking about the name change then. To me, first of all, I don't want them to change the name. That's number one. Let me say that. But if they had to change the name, which is what the question states, then I think it should just be the Skins. I mean, I said it before, I said it again. People already call us the Skins. The Redskins, nickname of the team is Skins. You know, what are the Skins going to do this year? People say the Skins already. Would I like it if the name was Skins permanently? Probably not. But I could deal with that. You know, I could deal with it. Would be a seamless transition if we had to change the name to just Skins. And I wouldn't have a problem with that. You know, again, I don't want to change the name. Let me reiterate that. But if we had to, I wouldn't have a problem with just Skins. You know, does it have the same ring as Washington Redskins? No. But the Washington Skins is as close as you're going to get to Redskins with, you know, without having to change the entire fabric of what this franchise has been over the last 80 some odd years. So Skins would be the name for me. And it would be an easy logo change. The color scheme could remain the same. The logo could change to an S. You know, just like the R is right now. It could be a nice fancy little S. I mean, there's so many things we could do with the logo if we had to do it. So that's what it would be for me. And last but not least, and also Smoke, I saw your other comment. And again, I'm not a huge college football guy, but look, you had to be under a rock to not see what Todd Gurley is doing right now in college football. And yes, he is looking like a bona fide beast right now. And there's nothing Gurley about Todd Gurley right now. That is a grown man, folks. That is a grown man. And he is playing like a Heisman candidate right now. Just let that be known. Let the record be set on that. And we move on to the final question for this segment. Comes from the Star-Lord. And it's my guy, Star-Lord. And he'll probably be a fixture on this segment because Star-Lord always gives me questions. Always gives me some type of feedback. And so his question, and let me just preference this with a little date. Let me give you a little bit of a timestamp on this one. This question was actually sent to me 2 weeks ago after the Atlanta Falcons Tampa Bay Buccaneers debacle. He sent me this question. Will Lovie Smith be fired or is it too soon? Now, I'm going to answer this question as if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers never won that game against the Steelers. No, he's not being fired. Had this team been 0-4 and they were beat even worse than they were beat on Thursday Night Football against the Falcons against the Steelers in week number 4, he still wouldn't be on the hot seat. This is a situation where it's trial and error. He's trying to figure out what guys can help him, what guys can't. You know, you come in and you got some holdovers, some leftovers from the last regime, and you also bring in your own stuff. And Lovie and Jason Light came in and they brought in a lot of their own stuff, okay? But even sometimes when you bring in your own stuff, even sometimes those parts are faulty as well. You know, some of the guys left over don't fit what you want to do. And then some of the guys you bring in, you realize, hey, this guy isn't what we thought he was. And so you got to figure out which guys fit what you're trying to do. And in Tampa Bay, one of the guys that he brought in happened to be one of the most important parts of this team was the quarterback, Josh McCown. And Josh McCown isn't what this team needs right now. Mike Glennon is. And so the sooner Lovie Smith realizes that, the sooner this team can get on track and start to play competitive football and win some games. And you saw the byproduct of that. They put Mike Glennon in because of an injury to Josh McCown. And voila, your first game of the season that Mike Glennon starts, you win. So I don't think they're going to beat the Saints necessarily this week. But I guarantee you they're going to be competitive in that football game. It won't look anything like the Falcons game on Thursday Night Football when they were on the road the last time we saw them in the division. So, look, I'm going to say this, and then that's the end of that. Lovie isn't on the hot seat, nor will he be on the hot seat. And he needs to make the right decision. And that is starting Mike Glennon from here on out. When McCown is healthy and ready to go, he needs to resume his career as a backup, like he was before Lovie unceremoniously made this man the starter. And so that's going to do it for this segment of Supply and Demand. I'm looking for a lot more feedback from you next week, people. And I'll take another quick break. We'll come back and wrap this Thursday edition on up.
Is your team hot or cold? Is your team trending up or down? Is your team flying below the radar or a visible force on the grid? Whatever the case, we'll do our own NFL power ranking here in the lab room. It's the NFL Power Grid, coming soon here in the lab room.
So we're back and we're going to wrap this episode up with a what if. Remember about 3 weeks ago I gave you a what if? I asked you, what if it was 4th and 7? Game on the line, you had to have it. If you don't get this completion for a first down, the game is over. And not only is the game over, the season is over. Who are you going to? A lot of you gave me your answers. Megatron, of course, was out there. I had Heath Miller as an answer. I had Fitzgerald as an answer. Those are all great answers. My answer was Anquan Bolden. I'm going to pose another what if today. What if you had to go 87 yards, no timeouts, a minute and 2 seconds left? What quarterback are you selecting as the guy to take you down the field, down 4 points in the Super Bowl? What guy are you selecting to take you down the field to get you a Lombardi? I'll give you my answer tomorrow on the Friday edition of In the Lab Room, looking for your feedback as to who would be your guy in this situation. A lot of quarterbacks out there, not all of them have the clutch gene. Which one are you selecting as your guy to get you in the end zone and help you hoist that Lombardi. So that's going to do it for this installment of In the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. Come back and join me on Friday as we unveil here on the program all of our Week 5 selections. I'll talk about how I was able to fare in Week 4, and again, it was another stinker. We'll talk about it tomorrow, and I'll tell you why I feel like I'm going to have my best week of the season in week number 5 tomorrow on this program. I'm looking forward to your feedback as to who will be that quarterback to take you down the field. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
In the Lab Room.